Hey, I'm Shelby.
And I'm Courtney.
We are digging up our past, looking forward to our future, and showing up for the present, all while learning how to live magically. Okay, so what was your takeaway from today's episode?
I think my takeaway was that you need to always follow your gut. Your business and your success and your personal success, everything all has come from this place of follow your gut, and as long as you listen to your intuition, most of the time it's going to be right.
You know, now that you just said that out loud, I know that we just finished this whole conversation, but you're like, trust your gut. I'm like, my gut's not very great. It's very anxious, but here we are and I'm doing it, right?
Here we are and you're doing it.
But the way you just said
it.
that, I was like, I mean, my gut,
your gut.
It's kind of broken, I feel like, but hey, it worked. It worked.
Tune in and learn more about Shelby's gut.
But we don't talk about that. No, today's episode, we talk about Pixie and I guess how it started, who I am.
I love it.
All right, awesome. Let's jump into it. Here we go. Hey.
Hey.
That was a cute little dance.
Thanks.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm just sipping on my black iced coffee
Oh
inspired by
my
you.
gosh, you're doing it.
I'm doing it. I need the syrup in there to cut the
sugar-free, of course, right?
Yeah, sugar-free all the way.
Duh. Oh,
but
I'm so
doing
proud.
it. I'm on
You're
board.
doing it.
I love it.
You don't chug it like me, though.
No, I don't chug it because with the syrup, it's good.
You know what? Yours. So I was just with you last week.
Yeah, you were here.
Your coffee was better than mine, even though I have an espresso. That Starbucks in the fridge was good.
Yeah, it's because I buy it. It's not fair.
Yeah, but it's only like $3.50, and I'm paying so much for my Nespresso pods. I think I'm getting ripped off.
They sell it at Aldi. It's like a deal for the Starbucks.
I'm so
original.
Team Nespresso, but maybe I'm doing it wrong.
No, well, aren't you taking hot coffee and then dumping it over ice?
I brew it into ice, and I literally chug it in 2 seconds because black coffee, I still don't love it, but it's better than creamer. I don't know.
I think that you have to use a special kind of coffee to make
Nespresso
coffee.
pods have an ice one. I just haven't bought it because when I bought my Nespresso, I bought all of these different pods because it was cheaper to do it that way, and I think that was actually a mistake.
Yeah.
Anyways.
No, Anyway, so you were just here. You got to try the coffee.
Yes, you made me coffee every morning. I lived with you for 4 days.
You stayed at my house. I loved it.
So I was I'm so glad you're back in Orlando.
Yeah, me too. I hated that place out there.
I don't know how you live there because it's so freaking hot.
It's so hot. But hearing the booms every night, and actually in the morning, if the wind is right, I can hear the train from the Magic Kingdom.
Okay, but then we took your dog for a walk, and I was sweating in 2 minutes. I don't know.
You're right. You're right.
I don't know how you do that.
It's a give and take. It's a give and take.
Now, next time you have to come up here.
I would love to come up there.
We've been Florida hot this whole week.
So I've heard. My in-laws were in New York were saying that it was high 90s.
My pool is 90 degrees. You need a bar of soap in it right now.
It's disgusting.
It's not great. I kind of like it,
Your
but it's
overflowing pool.
Now it's been so hot it evaporated. So
you are on a wild ride.
Adulting. Don't learn from me.
Don't try this at home.
Don't learn from me. All right. What are we talking about today?
I'm so excited for today because we're going to talk about the birth, growth, and transformation of what was Cafe 47 that's now Pixie Lee.
I guess that's me, huh?
It's you. I want to know everything.
You called it a birth. That was interesting.
It is a birth. Actually, I wrote little questions, and why I wanted to start was because I can remember for my biz, but do you remember the day your biz was born?
Well, mine was, I think, a little bit different than yours, where mine started more as a hobby.
Right.
I was I got a Cricut machine, and I was let's just I've always been creative. I get it from my mom, and I was just making whatever I could make because I thought it was fun. And so I don't, I remember I'm going to start a business, but it was more of I'm going to start a hobby that will maybe make me a little extra money.
Okay. And like, was there like a first sale to a family member, or did you say like, I'm just going to put something on Etsy and see what happens? Or like, how did it go from sticking stuff on something to somebody giving you money?
Yeah. So I started an Etsy, an Etsy account, and I was just, so backstory. So I was started making cups where I was just literally putting vinyl on cups. And it wasn't even like, let's say Disney magical related. It was just whatever I could think of at the time. And I was putting vinyl on cups. And I believe my first order was a friend from like when we were 4. Like I know she like moved away and like elementary school. She had ordered a batch of cups for a bachelorette party. And I think that was my first sale, which was now like 8.5 years ago, which is wild. But I do remember, so it was Etsy, and then I was doing mostly cups. But I remember when it kind of took off, not really, was I had made a like Starbucks themed shirt. I don't know if you remember this one that had like Tinkerbell on it. And I had put it into a like Disney loving Facebook group. And I remember selling like, I want to say like 25 through like through Facebook messages. And I was like, wait a second, maybe shirts are the way to go. Like, I mean, you kind of do need more shirts than cups, right?
Absolutely.
But I remember selling like, this is wild, like through Facebook sales. But it was still going through, actually, I don't even think it was going through Etsy. It was going through like, I was individually invoicing people on PayPal.
Through PayPal,
Yeah. So it's kind of,
wow.
And then I was like, okay, maybe my niche is Disney. And
it was born.
It was born. But it was still crazy. Cafe 47.
I feel like the takeaway for both of us, like overarching, has to be that besides talking to strangers on the internet, just like in general, the internet is this like magical place where businesses are born. Like I also found that my business was a business through a Facebook group. Through a Disney Facebook group. So it's
always say that
we met through a Disney Facebook group.
Right. When people, because I feel like, the internet, or I guess more so social media, has such like it kind of can get a stigma of like, you know, people are living their life through social media or that kind of thing. But man, when I really look back on it, I'm so grateful for social media, or I wouldn't be who I am or have what I have.
Exactly.
But I also think I hit social media at a good time where like,
I do too.
Like especially Instagram. Instagram was a thing, but it was not nearly as big as it was, obviously, 8 years ago.
We both started on Facebook, for sure.
Yeah. And then I jumped on the Instagram bandwagon, and it was much easier to grow on Instagram then than it is now.
You're incredible at Instagram. You can say what you want about like algorithms and how the times have changed and whatever, but like it's just something that you're really good at. And so I think that's an interesting part of your business, actually, that you take like beautiful photos and like you genuinely love connecting with people for like the person that you are. You're not like a fake. I mean, I am one of your best friends and I don't consider you to be like a fake person. I see you on the internet and that's like, we're texting the same photo. Like, that's who you are. So,
well, I think that's what makes my business, I don't want to say like what made it successful, but
totally.
I think a big part of it is that I do share my life and that I'm open and, I am who I am, and I create things that I guess relate to me.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, do you remember the time when, or like a moment when your business went from, not that it was a hobby, but like, you know, throwing out orders and also like, cause you still worked a full-time job, a real job, as we like to call them.
Yep.
Like you had a big girl job and you were packing orders on the side and whatever. Like when did you either realize like, this is my career, this is something that I can do for a livelihood, and like maybe either like leave I know you didn't leave your other jobs right away, but.
Well, I kind of took like a different path than most, I guess you would say. And my business started, I guess we can backtrack. My business started because I was in a different relationship, and he was in the military and I couldn't get a job where I was. We were very much so in the middle of nowhere. So I started, what was Cafe 47 as just a way of making income, but also like it was just impossible for me to find a job at the time. I was a nanny, but again, both almost like hobbies, I would say.
Sure.
So it kind of kickstarted and it was becoming a thing and I was still doing it. So I was doing it full time without working another job. We had moved somewhere else and I was still doing it. But again, at the time we had his income to depend on. So it wasn't, I wouldn't say I was necessarily like full blown full time, or I wouldn't have been comfortable if I was on my own.
Sure.
One thing led to another. We split, obviously, and I had moved back to back to New Hampshire. And at that time, my parents were like, "Hey, come live with us. Like, let's get you on your feet, yada yada." And I was like, "I'm not doing that. I'm gonna live on my own." But the only thing I had in my back pocket was Cafe 47. And so I moved on my own into an apartment, and I was doing it, and I was doing it. I was paying my bills, just Cafe 47, but I still couldn't. I didn't love that idea of being fully dependent on that income, because you just don't know. It's not.
No.
You could have one bad week of something not selling, or I could pre-purchase a bunch of shirts and then them not sell, and now I'm in the hole, and like, what if I can't pay my rent? So I did go back to a previous job that I had when I was younger. They took me back. It was at a local racetrack. I was doing their social media, their store, and I went and worked full time. So I was working full time and doing Cafe 47.
I mean, you were really full time. You were doing like events on the weekends and like
looking
late
back
nights
now, I'm like,
and
how did I do that?
You were really, I don't know how you did it either. And you were coaching cheer. You were really busy.
It's crazy when I really think about it. But I did that for, gosh, it had to have been three years. I was doing both. And at this time, we can get into that, but I had now changed over to Pixie. It was really taking off. But I could not commit to it being my full-time job. I don't know. It just like, it was scary. That is such a scary step to take of like, hey, can you pay all of my bills?
Well, you literally were independent. Like you said, you had left your relationship. You were living on your own. Like,
I was by
that's
myself.
A really scary thing to line up on any one stream of income, even if it's like a traditional job. Right. Just like being reliant on one single stream of income is kind of scary.
It's very scary. And
then if it's like made up from the internet, it's even more scary.
Well, you just never know. Like,
right.
I still don't know. But anyways, COVID happened and the racetrack let me go in a not great way, but we won't get into that. And it ended up being the biggest blessing, because I had to, full force ahead, go full blown Pixie, and it was make it or, well, you don't make it. And I thankfully have somehow made it, and it pays my bills. I'm full time, and I had to move out of my house, got an office space, and it worked out. So it was definitely a blessing. And I truly don't know if I could tell you if I would have done that on my own without being pushed out of my other job.
You don't think so?
I mean, I guess at one point I would have to get there, because when I look at what I do right now, there's just no chance that I would be able to work full-time and do full-time Pixie. There is no way I could do it. But I think it would have taken a lot for me to like fully let go of it. And then, you know what? Let's drop the stigma of, oh, well, the health insurance thing. Because a lot of people say they don't want to do their own business because of health insurance. And I'll be full transparent. Like, obviously, at first I was like, because everybody says that, you're thinking, what am I missing here? That health insurance is so crazy. And I pay out of pocket $450 a month, which is insane. Don't get me wrong. But $450 a month in the grand scheme of things isn't, for my health insurance. You know what I mean? People make it sound like it's like thousands of dollars like that I'm going to be paying out of pocket. And it's a write-off.
It was worth the risk.
Yeah, I just want to throw that out there, because a lot of people are like, they don't take that leap, Yeah. Granted, I'm very excited to get on Kyle's health insurance in a few months.
We're covering the serious topics here on the Living Magically podcast.
Well, I just think that's something that, seriously though, people are always like, oh, health insurance. Anyways.
No, you're right. I remember the same thing when I started mine, like going through the health insurance marketplace and having to figure out. And
it's like overwhelming, but when it's done with. Like,
it's overwhelming, but also I think that I'm a better recipient of healthcare now, if that makes sense. Like I understand my bills and stuff.
That's, well, good for you, because I do not.
Well,
anyways, so that's where.
Okay, so you mentioned, and I want to get into the transition between Cafe 47 and also like what that even meant, even though I already know, and why we went to Pixie, and if you got any like pushback for changing your name or anything from anybody.
I got a lot of pushback from you, which is so funny now. So Cafe 47 at the time, again, I was making mugs. So a kind of cafe made sense, mugs. The 47, I was in that previous relationship. He was a helicopter pilot and he was flying something called a CH-47. So I was like, full gung-ho, let's do this. There we are, Cafe 47. Kind of cute, I suppose.
Totally cute.
Once life had different plans for me, that just like wasn't me. And it felt super weird to continue to grow this company that was not me. And so I remember coming to you and saying like, I'm going to rebrand because this is just not, but it's also like, I was also in a whole different, I feel like I was in a different market now. It wasn't mugs. I was no longer doing drinkware. I was doing t-shirts and they were all very magical. And what about Cafe 47 sounds magical. So I felt that was no longer my brand. And so I was brainstorming a bunch of names. I think I probably told you a handful of names. You didn't like any of them because you were like, no, this is a terrible idea. And so Pixie to me is like, pixie dust. It's magical. I always say like, I'm sending you pixie dust or something like that. So I just really love the term like that kind, like it's magical. And then Lee is my middle name. It's also like my family name. My grandparents' last name is Lee. And then, I don't know, Ann Co. sounded legit. So
yeah, makes you sound like an official business.
It was born. And I mean, I call it like PLC a lot of the time, but it just made sense. And it was scary. I will say, like, I do remember like being in the apartment I was in when I made that leap of I'm going to rebrand because everybody knew me as Cafe 47. And
you were like a big deal then. I mean, you weren't as big as you are now, but for me, my advice against it all came from this place of like, well, people know who you are as Cafe 47. And then when this new name starts showing up in their feed, they're going to be like, who is this? And are they going to make the association? And like, are you going to lose following?
I want to say I had to have been like 3 years in.
Yeah.
I think. Because I would say, because I've been doing this for like 8.5 years. So I was probably 3 years in when I decided to, make that change. And it was scary, but I did it.
And like, do you have regret?
Oh God, no.
Yeah.
No.
You've only grown since then.
Well, because I can't picture myself growing a brand that was no longer like representing me. My whole brand is off of me and who I am. And that was no longer who I was. So it just didn't feel right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I went off of, I knew like life was going to take a different direction. So I went with like Lee because I like Lee will always be a part of me no matter what. It's my middle name. So it just made sense.
I actually was just thinking from last night, from a business perspective, also how smart it is that you're Pixie Lee and then your personal brand is like Shelby Lee.
I'm just a Lee.
The Lee is connected. Yeah. But I love that. I think it's like funny brilliant like, from a marketing perspective.
Well, when people see me in the parks or something, they'll be like, are you Pixie Lee? I'm like, yes, I am.
That's all right. Pixie. People used to run up to me and be like, are you Mouse to your house? Which is like also a weird name.
Right. But hey, it all makes sense. Yeah. Oh, it's such a wild ride. But yeah, changing the business name was genius on my part.
Yeah.
No matter who says otherwise.
Sorry. No, I'm impressed. I think you made the right call.
Thank you.
Always go with your gut. A little bit. Always go with your gut.
Yeah.
I always go with your gut.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me a little bit about what your 9 to 5 looks like? If you have, I know it's like very non-traditional and also that it doesn't really stick to the hours of 9 to 5.
I don't have a 9 to 5. Not by any means. I have like a 24/7. I mean, I sleep, but it's funny because I think I was just telling you when I was with you last week, it's like, I don't physically work as hard anymore because I am now able to like outsource my screen printing. So I'm not like vinyling t-shirts anymore. So I'm not like hunched over physically working anymore, but I am mentally working way more than I ever was. I just feel like I am on all the time. I'm always having to think of new things or like what's next or plan for the future, or it's just there's always like I have to design stuff to pay my bills, right? I have to come up with new things. So I feel like my brain is always on to think of different things, and so my 9 to 5 is like my mind is never not on Pixie. Like I go to sleep thinking about Pixie and I wake up thinking about Pixie. Something that everybody seems to judge me for. Even you were like, you do what every morning? I lay in bed for far too long, but I'm like on my phone and I am like, I do my social media, I plan my day, and I'm just like on my phone for far too long. But and Kyle will come in and be like, are you ever going to get up? I'm like, I've been working for 2 hours. You don't understand. So my phone comes with me, and unfortunately that means work comes with me. I will say things like my 9 to 5 would gotten a little bit better now that I moved Pixie out of my house and I do have my office space. Because
so proud for that.
Thank you. That's a whole, you told me to do this years ago and I was like, I can't do that. And
but you did it. You did it. Like you came home from a trip
for you
with me, right?
Yeah.
And then I remember you texting me and being like, we went by this sign on the side of the road that's like a place that's available. Yeah. And it ended up being like perfect.
I want to say we went on a trip. I went on a trip with you, and then like what? 2 weeks later, I was like, I got a place.
Yeah.
But since moving there, my 9 to 5, it's helped me tremendously with like, I have to actually leave the house, and Pixie is not like, oh man, there'd be like, Pixie was in the living room and then in the kitchen, and like although it had its own space in the house, it was just like overflow into everywhere. So having that out of the house has helped the 9 to 5 situation, but I'm not totally great at it because I will go to the office and then I'll be like, I can do my computer work at home, my laptop, and then I like go home, especially if Kyle's home, like I want to spend all the time with you.
Yeah.
So my 9 to 5 is like a 24/7, but I'm very grateful for it. So I don't want to sound like I'm complaining about working all the time.
No, I don't think it sounds like complaining. I think it's just like realistic to think that, for example, like most of us wake up in the morning and scroll social media. But like for you, and used to be for me, like scrolling, I remember it, scrolling social media isn't like what are my friends and family up to only. It's also like, did I get DMs about missing orders? And like, did I get any traction on that post? And
kind of off topic, but like you just said, for anybody like listening that has a business, I used to answer all DMs about orders and that kind of stuff. And now I've tried to get much better about, hey, if you have an order question, please send me an email, so that I don't do that on my phone. And I am just sitting down, like, you know, on my computer to handle order questions. So little tip for other.
Let's do like the little aside for why that matters. Because I know like for me and for you, I think it's the same. If you're on Instagram as like dog lover 1957 and you have a problem with your order, we don't know who you are or like how to help you.
I have no idea who you are. I sometimes can't even read your name, but two, you'll send me these DMs at like Sunday night at 7 o'clock, and as much as I say I work 24/7, you're not like at the computer to know, to like line it up with your system to know like which order has the problem. Exactly. And I would like to like sit at home and relax with Kyle and the cats and whatever. Yeah. So it's nice on like, okay, if you sent me a question about your order, let me get to that on Monday. And when I'm on my computer, I can pull it up this way. And if you ever ask a question about an order, you should always send your order number. That goes for if you're emailing Target or a small shop. Your order number is very important. But no, answering DMs about orders is very, very hard. Correct.
Yeah.
Who are you?
We needed to have a little aside about that because that's like important. And I think it's important that people know the behind the scenes of like, it's not that we're just like, don't want to help you.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
It's like literally impossible to help you.
I don't know who you are. I want to know who you are, but I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, very good tip there.
Yeah. Do you have anything else that you like that stands out to you in your journey as a small business owner that you would want people to know or like?
Well, I think one thing to to compare like you and I, for instance, because we are going to learn about your story. First, mine is I did not go to school. I went to high school, but I graduated high school. I tried to go to college and it just wasn't for me. I've gotten much better about being open about saying like I didn't go finish college. It's not for me because like I surround myself right now with like most of Kyle's friends and I think most of my friends have also graduated with a college degree. And I used to get very down on myself of like, I either missed out on experiences or I think I'm stupid because I didn't go to school. But I can now like, I've gotten much better. I can now like say like, you know what, I didn't go to school, but I'm successful of like what I did. And although I will say half the time I don't know what I'm doing, I'm just learning as it goes. But I didn't go to school, which is, I think a lot of people don't realize. And I am not at all being like pro don't go to college, because I do think that you should go to college, because I do think there are experiences that maybe you should experience and there is knowledge behind that. It's just, I did try and it just wasn't for me. So, and even when I left college, I still didn't know what I was going to do. I was a freaking waitress, and obviously I wasn't like set up for success there, but my path took me to where I am and it worked out for me. So, I mean, go to school, but if it's not for you, then don't get upset at yourself for not going to school.
Give it a try.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say that, because I kind of feel the same way. Like, college was the best time of my life and I wouldn't trade it for literally anything, but not because I had this like profound educational experience where like I feel that I'm being served now in my business or my life from like the classes that I sat in. They helped and I'm glad that I was there, but it came from these like life lessons. And so I just think that for me, like the life lessons of college were really cool, and like it was a really unique environment and experience, but you also had your own unique environment and experience. And like you learned much quicker than I did how to like get scrappy and like teach yourself like, what is Instagram? Oh, well, maybe I should learn about that, and like how to make my posts more angular and more, you just like researched, right? Like
kind of, but I
learned stuff and self-taught.
Self-taught is definitely the word, but I also think, I feel like my mind works in a different way almost, but I also feel like your mind works in a different way as well. I mean, we all have things that our mind works for, right? Like, I mean, sorry to keep going back to Kyle. I just like using him as an example. That guy loves sports. He lives and breathes sports. In his mind, you say something, it goes right to sports, and he can relate it to sports somehow one way or another. Mine is I'm very, very creative. And I have this like creativity part of my mind where, you know, I'm a creator. That is my job, right? So I just think my mind works differently. But yes, I am self-taught. However, I will say, although I didn't go to school, in high school I took classes where I learned Photoshop. And while it took me a while to start my business and like start using Photoshop, I had to get like a couple of refresher classes. Most of my knowledge is actually from my high school classes, which is kind of crazy. Like, a lot of things you like.
That's awesome.
But like a lot of like, what do you remember from learning in high school, right? You always joke about like we should have learned about health insurance in high school, right? But because you didn't take away anything from high school, but I somehow I took away Photoshop.
That's pretty lucky. I mean, like we didn't have anything. I mean, I don't remember. Maybe I just wasn't part of that.
Well, exactly though. You don't remember because high school.
Yeah. Well, it's cool that you had it though.
Yeah, thanks. Worked out for me.
It did.
Well, it's actually funny. In high school, I wanted to be a elementary school teacher.
Really?
Yeah.
I did too.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
I always wanted to be a teacher.
But you know what? That's a creative mind.
Yeah.
You can't be a teacher without having a creative mind, so that makes sense. Yeah, I wanted to be a teacher, but in my previous relationship, I was like, he was in the military, and I was like, how am I going to be a teacher in the military? Like, we're going to be moving around. I'm going to be like leaving kids in the middle of school. Like, that's not going to work. So I dropped that dream, which, worked out. I never had
dropped that dream.
Well, I did. I was like, I'm going to be a teacher. I never had a dream of being a business owner or to do what I'm doing now. That was never, No,
neither did I.
I don't even know if, I've never probably said like, that's what I wanted to do.
No. Well,
But
who would
now-
ever think it was possible?
Well, that, I guess. But now I'm circling back to a conversation we had a week ago when we were together of like, what do we want to do now? Like, what can we
Right.
picture ourselves doing now that we've done this? Or I'm
Right.
doing that. I'm doing this. You're doing. We'll get to that. But like, what
Just
is
standing.
it? What is it that we want to do next? Because I have no idea.
I have no idea either. Literally no idea.
And it's a little bit more important for you than me at this current moment, but we'll get there.
We'll get there. It's going to be fine. But
But
like,
yeah.
it's been a wild ride, right?
It has been a wild ride. Well, I think that's some for everyone listening is there's no correct path to get to wherever you're trying to go.
And we've been so all over the place.
Me,
Both
yeah,
of us.
yeah, oh yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that story right there. I wanted to be a teacher, and now I post on
are.
Instagram for a living. Not really, but.
Literally. You do literally post on Instagram for a
Yeah,
living.
Okay, but like Instagram's not paying my bills.
No, right.
What my store is, but
Right.
I just think if you give up on one dream, that doesn't mean like all dreams are crushed. Like
True.
you don't know what your next dream is yet.
That's a nice nugget. And like you said, we had no idea that this was even a possibility. So
Yeah, I think Walt Disney said something like that. What does he say about the
if you can
if you can
dream it, you can do it.
if you can dream it, you can do it? But what's the one about impossible? Well,
Makes the impossible possible.
I'm gonna be honest. I think I made a shirt that said this once.
Oh no.
Well, irrelevant. It's something like if you can dream it, it's possible, or something like that. Great, that was
But
deep.
it's not if you can dream it, you can do it.
Well, that's one too, but one's like the impossible is. Well,
It's kind of fun to do the impossible.
oh no, but I also don't think that was one of them. Well, you know what? A wise man once said a lot
Oh my
of
God.
things. Walt Disney once said a lot of things.
That's right. I feel like it's kind of fun to do the impossible shirt. It's been like I'm sure you've done one, but like it's probably been a long
I
time.
think I've done that.
No?
But now after this conversation, I feel like I should.
We got to like double check. It's one of those quotes that's standing out in the back of my mind that like isn't a real Walt Disney quote or something.
Oh, you
like,
might
we
be
gotta
right.
just double check with Kate, probably. our source of truth and knowledge.
Yeah, she knows all.
She
Well,
knows
you know
all.
what? Speaking of Kate, let's backtrack on the biz. I think for both of us, we can say this of like, yes, I didn't know a whole lot, but I wouldn't be able to do it without like my group of friends, the group of friends that I've made along the way. I would not have you if it wasn't for Pixie.
Right. And I wouldn't have you. Same thing.
But I think like we've shared knowledge together. That's basically why we're doing this podcast is like we get off a conversation and we're like ready to,
Ready to go.
ready to go. But we had Kate in our life.
Yep.
I have Ashton,
Yep.
Brandy. I have so many fellow small shop friends that we've really created this really great community that just keep good people in your corner, I guess is what I'm trying to say, because that makes all the difference, really.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like, it's cool to know that behind the scenes, I know it isn't this way for everybody, but for us at least, we've found good people in the Disney community and like people that'll look out for you. Like if you and I are in the park, not just you and I, but like if you and I, for example, are in the parks together, like you're going to see a mop and know that I'm into mopping and be like, can I take your picture over by that mop for your Instagram? Because it's like important to me. And
Yeah.
whereas like in traditional business, people are more competitive and not that we ever sold the same things,
Yes.
but like, I don't want to teach you my secrets because I know that like I'm getting higher interaction because I posted 8 p.m.
Right.
or whatever. And we've been really lucky to find a group of people who will stick together and like talk those things through and
Yes.
try to figure out like what's
And
working for you. It won't work
Share
for me.
the tips and tricks, exactly what works for you and what works for me.
Yeah.
But I also think we've always had each other's back of like I would never sell
No.
something that a fellow friend was selling. But I just think having good people in your corner is so important for, well, any aspect of life. But I got very, very lucky for the people in my corner, especially for Pixie.
Agree.
Yeah.
And like, I just think back to our whole internet point, it's neat to know that a lot of those people came from the internet.
Most of the people came from that group that we discussed last week.
From the
Like,
Candle group.
yeah, because that was a small business.
It was a small business.
Oh my
and like
gosh.
we were in there trying to make a small business better. We didn't even know we wanted to have our own small business dreams.
Yeah. So wild.
Crazy.
So wild.
It is crazy.
Oh, here we are.
Oh my gosh. Here we are. All right. Well, you got anything else for me? Tips, tricks?
I'm going to share my tip on.
Yeah. What do you have for like a tip for living magically? What's your advice?
My advice would, and this goes for anything, whatever you're doing, is I think my biggest tip is that always be true to yourself and be true to what you want to do. I always get questions about to do this design, or like a lot of people are like, do a Star Wars design. I don't like Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's just not my thing. So I don't put out Star Wars. I heard somebody, as another business owner, talk about how they were selling something and they weren't wearing what they were selling, and somebody asked them like, hey, let me see what you sell, and they weren't wearing it, and they were like, oh, well, if I'm not wearing it, then why would other people want to wear that? And that really stuck with me.
That.
So I very much so, I would say, actually recently have very stuck to, I'm only going to do things that I love and that are true to me and true to what I like. And it's worked out well. I mean, a perfect example of that would be like, because I recently got engaged and I did that living my happily ever after tee. And it was kind of bride based, but also I made it in a different color that wasn't, and it blew up. It was such a successful shirt. And I think it's just because, I mean, it's true to me and what I'm doing and like where I'm at in life, but I think it relates to a lot of other people too. So you're relatable to others. You're not everyone's cup of tea, but you're someone's cup of tea, and just be true to yourself would be my tip.
I think that plays back to exactly to the beginning too, of like why you're good at this. It's because you're an authentic person, and because that comes through in what you're doing, and like you're making clothes that you would want to wear, right?
Yeah.
You're coming up with designs that you find important. You're not just like putting Star Wars on a shirt because you know Galaxy's Edge just opened and it's new, and so you'll sell 1 million shirts. Like, because it's not your vibe.
That's
and
just
so
not
I think
my thing.
people, I think it's really smart. Like people resonate with your vibe because it's authentic. So like,
yes, thank you.
Being authentic benefits you because it makes you feel better on your insides because you're congruent, like who you are and what you're putting out is congruent, but also because I think people just like, you find your tribe, you find your people by being authentic.
100% agree. But that's what I mean of like, I think this tip, my tip for like living magically goes outside of starting a business, that goes to your everyday life, is just stay true to who you are. And again, maybe you're not somebody's cup of tea, but you are somebody's cup of tea. And if that person doesn't like who you are, then move on to the next.
I love it.
Awesome.
I love it. It's brilliant.
Well, thanks for chatting today. Oh, this is I'm so glad we're doing this.
Me too. I love your story. I love everything about it. I got some new nuggets today that I didn't know, like that you wanted to be a teacher.
I didn't know that you wanted to be a teacher. Crazy.
We'll have to digest that later.
Right. Although
exciting.
I definitely could not be a teacher now looking.
I don't think so either.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, scary.
Well, just I more mean scary, like kids are scary.
Yeah, kids are scary. And schools are scary. Like
I coach, so I'm kind of teaching.
Yeah.
Kind of.
You're doing it. You're kind of doing it all.
I'm trying my dang best.
Proud of you.
Thank you. Yeah. I appreciate you. Truly, I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you. So I appreciate that.
Oh, right back at you.
Oh my God. All right.
Gross. See you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.